The moment Adrian Hale pushed through the hospital door, he saw it. His fiancée leaning over his mother's bed, her hands tight and purposeful, cutting off her breath as if she was trying to erase a heartbeat. And when Adrian shouted her name, she didn't jump like someone caught by surprise. She turned slowly, like she'd been expecting him. So the question is simple. If the woman you plan to marry could do that to your mother, what else had she already done? 2 days earlier, Adrian had been in a glass-walled boardroom, signing the last page of a deal that would make tomorrow's headlines. People called him a billionaire like it was his first name, like money could replace history. But Adrian's real wealth wasn't the company or the skyline view behind him. It was one person, his mother, Eleanor Hale. And the call came like a crack in the world. "Mr. Hale, your mother has been admitted. It's serious." Adrian stood so fast his chair slid back with a sharp scrape. His assistant started asking questions. His lawyers started offering options, and his phone started buzzing with messages from people who suddenly remembered how to care. But Adrian didn't hear most of it. All he heard was the small pause in the nurse's voice. The kind of pause you hear when someone is trying not to panic. He walked out without finishing the meeting. No speeches. No explanations. Just a straight line from success to fear. On the drive, his fiancée, Elise, called him twice. When he answered the third time, her voice was soft, too soft. "Adrian, I heard about your mom. I'm already handling things. The hospital said visitors should wait. She needs rest." Adrian gripped the steering wheel. Elise had been in his life for a year. Beautiful, polished, always saying the right thing at the right time. She fit into his world the way expensive art fits into a white room, perfectly placed. But Adrian had a wound he never spoke about. Years ago, someone close to him had stolen from him. Not money. Something worse. Trust. He'd learned that betrayal doesn't always arrive wearing anger. Sometimes it arrives wearing a smile, holding your hand, telling you it's protecting you. So when Elise told him not to come, that old wound stirred. "I'm not waiting," Adrian said. There was a beat of silence on the line. Then Elise breathed out like she was calming herself. "Okay," she said. "Then I'll meet you there." He ended the call and drove faster. By the time he reached the hospital, it was late afternoon. The building looked like every hospital in the world, clean on the surface, heavy in the air. The lobby smelled like sanitizer and worry. People sat with tired eyes and clenched hands. A child cried somewhere down a hallway, and nobody looked surprised. Adrian walked in, and heads turned. Not because he wanted them to, because money has a sound even when you don't speak. A receptionist recognized him immediately and stood up too quickly. "Mr. Hale, your mother is on the 4th floor. Private wing." Adrian didn't stop for small talk. He thanked her and moved. As he headed toward the elevators, he noticed something strange. A woman pushing a cleaning cart near the corridor watched him like she wasn't looking at a stranger. Not a fan. Not a curious worker. Her eyes held something else. Recognition. She looked young, maybe mid-20s. Simple uniform. Hair covered neatly. No jewelry except a small pendant tucked beneath her collar. Her face was calm, but her fingers tightened on the cart handle when Adrian passed. And then she did something that made Adrian slow down. She whispered under her breath, almost like a reflex. "Don't trust the quiet ones." Adrian turned. "What did you say?" The woman's eyes widened slightly, like she hadn't meant to speak aloud. She recovered fast. "Sorry, sir," she said. "Just talking to myself." Adrian stared at her. Something about her voice pulled at a memory he couldn't place. Not the words, her tone. Like someone he once knew humming behind a closed door. He should have ignored it. He had bigger problems. But his mother was upstairs, and the last time anyone told him to wait, he regretted it. So he filed the moment away and stepped into the elevator. When the doors opened on the 4th floor, everything changed. It was quieter, softer lighting, better furniture. A private wing for people whose money could buy less noise, even when life was falling apart. A nurse met him by the desk. "Mr. Hale," she said, professional but kind. "I'm Nurse Patel. Your mother is stable, but she's very weak." "Can I see her?" Nurse Patel nodded. Only a few minutes. She's been in and out. There's also—" She hesitated, then continued, "Your fiancé has been here." Adrian's jaw tightened. Of course. Nurse Patel led him down a corridor and stopped outside a room with a single door and a small window. "Before you go in," she said, lowering her voice, "has your mother been stressed recently?" Adrian blinked. "Stressed? She's sick." Nurse Patel's expression didn't change, but her eyes sharpened. "I mean emotionally. Has anyone been pressuring her?" Adrian didn't answer quickly enough. Nurse Patel gave a polite smile like she hadn't asked anything heavy at all. "I'll give you a moment," she said, and stepped away. Adrian opened the door. His mother lay in bed, smaller than he remembered. Tubes and monitors surrounded her like a cage made of science. Her skin looked pale, her lips dry, her hair brushed back neatly. But her eyes were open, and when she saw Adrian, they filled immediately. "DRI," she whispered. That nickname hit him right in the chest. He rushed to her side, took her hand carefully. It felt fragile. "I'm here," he said. "I'm right here." She squeezed once, as if spending all her strength on a single message. "Don't let her." Her voice cracked, and she coughed weakly. Adrian leaned in. "Mom, who? Don't let who?" Her eyes flicked toward the door, and then, before she could finish, the door opened. Elise entered like she owned the air. She wore a cream-colored coat, expensive but subtle, hair perfect, makeup flawless. She walked straight to Adrian and placed a hand on his shoulder like she was the comfort in the room. "Oh, Adrian," she murmured. "I'm so sorry. I've been here all day." Adrian didn't move away, but he didn't lean into her either. His mother's eyes stayed on Elise, and in those eyes, Adrian saw something he had never seen his mother show toward anyone: fear. Elise smiled at Eleanor like they shared a secret. "How are you feeling?" Elise asked sweetly. Eleanor's lips trembled. She tried to speak, but her throat seemed too weak. Elise turned to Adrian. "The doctors said it's complicated, but I've been taking care of everything. I spoke to Dr. Rowland. He's excellent." Adrian's stomach tightened again. He didn't like how Elise said the doctor's name, like she knew him well. He glanced at the monitors. Everything looked normal to him, because he wasn't a doctor. But something felt off in the room, like the temperature dropped without anyone touching the thermostat. Eleanor tugged Adrian's hand weakly, trying to pull him closer. Adrian bent down. His mother's breath came shallow. Her eyes watered. "She knows," Eleanor whispered. "The papers." Adrian's heart picked up speed. "What papers?" Elise's voice cut in, gentle but firm. "Adrian, your mom needs rest. Too much talking will strain her." Adrian straightened. "She's trying to tell me something." Elise's smile tightened. "She's confused. The medication makes her emotional." Adrian looked from Elise to his mother. Eleanor's eyes were not confused. They were pleading. A nurse came in at that moment. Another nurse, not Patel. This one was younger, brisk, and she didn't look at Adrian's face for more than a second. "I need to check her vitals," she said. Elise stepped aside easily, like someone comfortable in the room. Adrian watched the nurse adjust the 4-line. Then he noticed something small. The nurse glanced at Elise before making an adjustment, like she was waiting for approval. It was subtle, but Adrian caught it. By the time he left that room, he carried more than fear. He carried a question. Why did his mother look afraid of Elise? And why did a nurse look like Elise was the one in charge? He walked out into the hallway and found Nurse Patel by the desk. Patel looked up immediately, as if she'd been waiting. "How long has Elise been visiting?" Adrian asked quietly. Nurse Patel hesitated. "She's been here frequently. She's listed as an emergency contact." Adrian frowned. "I'm her son. Why wasn't I called first?" Patel lowered her voice. "The file was updated 2 weeks ago. We assumed it was authorized." Adrian's mouth went dry. Updated 2 weeks ago. His mother had been getting weaker for months, but she was still sharp, still in control. She didn't just change emergency contacts casually, unless someone changed it for her. Adrian's phone buzzed. A message from Elise. She was standing 10 feet away. Let's step into the family lounge, the message read. We need to talk about your mother's care. Adrian looked up. Elise smiled like nothing was wrong. He followed her into a small lounge with a couch, a coffee machine, and framed art that looked like someone paid too much for something meant to soothe. Elise closed the door behind them. I know this is hard, she said, but we need to be practical. Your mother's condition is worsening. The doctors may recommend decisions soon. What kind of decisions? Adrian asked. Elise said elegantly. Legal ones. Medical ones. You know, if she can't speak for herself. Adrian stared at her. My mother can speak. Elise's eyes flickered. Not always. And we need to ensure everything is protected. Adrian leaned forward. Protected from what? Elise reached for his hand. From chaos. From people who see your vulnerability and want to take advantage. Adrian thought of the cleaner woman downstairs. Don't trust the quiet ones. He pulled his hand back gently. Elise's smile stayed, but it thinned. Adrian, she said softly, you trust me, right? He didn't answer fast enough. Elise looked away, then back again, and her voice softened more. I love you. I'm building a life with you. I'm doing what your mother would want. Adrian's jaw tightened. My mother looked scared when you walked in. Elise froze for half a second. Then she laughed lightly, like he'd made a silly joke. She's sick, Elise said. She's emotional. She's always been intense about you. Adrian didn't smile. Elise leaned in. If you let stress distract you, you'll miss important things. Like the board's reaction to you leaving your meeting today, or the media finding out she's hospitalized. Adrian's eyes narrowed. Is that a threat? Elise's smile returned. No, it's reality. She stood. I'm going back in. I don't want her alone. We'll talk later. When she left, Adrian sat still, feeling something shift under his feet. Then his phone buzzed again, this time, not a text. A voicemail notification from an unknown number. Adrian pressed play. A woman's voice whispered, rushed and shaky. Mr. Hale, I don't know if you remember me, but your mother is not safe. Please don't trust Elise. Please. I'm trying to help. I'm in the building. I can't say more on the phone. Adrian's breath stopped. He replayed it. It sounded like the cleaner woman. How did she get his number? And why did she sound like she was afraid of being heard? Adrian stood quickly and left the lounge. He walked toward the elevators, mind racing, and then he saw her again. The same woman. The cleaning cart. The calm face. She was near a service corridor, pretending to wipe a wall that didn't need wiping. Adrian approached her. You left me a voicemail, he said quietly. Her eyes widened. Then she looked around as if the walls had ears. I shouldn't have, she whispered, but I didn't have a choice. How do you have my number? Adrian asked. The woman swallowed. I got it from the admissions file. I'm sorry. Adrian's suspicion rose. You work here. You're not supposed to do that. I know, she said quickly. But your mother, she tried to warn you. Adrian stared at her. Who are you? She hesitated, then said, My name is Amina. Adrian studied her face. She didn't look like a scammer. She looked like someone carrying a weight that didn't fit her job title. What do you want? Adrian asked. Amina's voice dropped. To keep her alive. Adrian's heart pounded. Alive from what? Amina's eyes flicked down the hallway, toward Eleanor's room. Then she said something that made Adrian's skin go cold. From the woman who smiles at you like a bride, but watches your mother like a deadline. Adrian didn't breathe for a second. How do you know Elise? Amina shook her head quickly. Not like that. I've seen her. I've seen what she does when nobody's watching. Adrian narrowed his eyes. What does she do? Amina leaned closer, voice barely above air. She changes things. Files. Visitors. Nurses. People think it's normal. But it's not. Adrian's stomach turned. By minute 3 of his new reality, he had a clue that couldn't be normal. A hospital cleaner shouldn't know about private files. A hospital cleaner shouldn't warn a billionaire about his fiancée. And yet here she was, trembling like the truth was dangerous. Adrian forced his voice steady. Why are you telling me this? Amina's lips parted as if she wanted to say something deeper. Then she swallowed it. Because, she whispered, your mother once saved someone who didn't deserve saving, and now she's paying for it. Before Adrian could ask what that meant, a voice called from the nurse's station. Amina. Service corridor now. Amina's posture snapped upright. She nodded quickly at Adrian. Please, she whispered, don't leave her alone tonight. Then she pushed her cart away, leaving Adrian standing in a hallway that suddenly felt too bright. That night, Adrian didn't go home. He told Elise he had work calls. He told his assistant to reschedule everything. He told the world whatever it needed to hear. But the truth was, he sat in his mother's room, watching the quiet rhythm of machines and listening to her breath. Elise came in around 9 p.m., carrying a small bag and wearing concern like perfume. You're still here, she said warmly. You must be exhausted. I'm fine, Adrian said. Elise leaned down and kissed his cheek. You're a good son. Eleanor's eyes were open again. She stared at Elise with the same fear. Elise pretended not to notice. She adjusted the blanket on Eleanor's chest, careful, gentle. Then, as if accidentally, her fingers brushed the foreline. Adrian watched her hands. Elise's nails were perfectly manicured, and those hands moved with the confidence of someone who'd done the same action before. Adrian stood. Elise, can we talk outside? Elise blinked, then smiled. Of course. They stepped into the hallway. Adrian kept his voice low. Why were you added as her emergency contact? Elise's smile didn't break. Because I'm your partner. We're getting married. It made sense. My mother didn't authorize that. Elise's eyes cooled slightly. Adrian, your mother is sick. She forgets things. She confuses people. Adrian stared at her. She called me DRI today. She remembered that. Elise's jaw tightened for half a second. Then she softened again. You're stressed. Let's not fight right now. Adrian leaned closer. What did she mean by the papers? Elise laughed lightly. She's been worried about her old files. She thinks everyone wants her will. It's paranoia. Adrian's chest tightened. Is it? Elise stepped closer. You and I are building a future. Don't let fear ruin it. Then Elise lowered her voice into something that sounded loving, but felt sharp. If you push too hard, Adrian, you might discover things you can't unsee. And with that, she walked back into the room. Adrian stood frozen. By minute 7 of this unfolding nightmare, he had a second clue that raised the stakes. Elise wasn't just defensive. She was warning him. And Elise never warned. She controlled. Adrian left the room and walked straight to Nurse Patel. I need to see my mother's file, Adrian said. Nurse Patel hesitated. There are privacy protocols. I'm her son, and I'm also her legal representative. If the file says otherwise, I need to know why. Patel studied him for a long moment, then nodded. She led him to a secure desk and logged into a terminal. When the file opened, Adrian's stomach dropped. The emergency contact had been changed, yes, but something else had been updated too. A care directive. A document that stated, in careful typed language, that Eleanor Hale did not want aggressive measures if her condition worsened. Adrian's mouth went dry. His mother had always been clear. Fight, she'd said once, when Adrian was younger and wanted to quit school after being bullied. You fight, even when you're scared. Especially when you're scared. This directive didn't sound like his mother. It sounded like someone trying to make it easier for her to disappear. Adrian looked at the signature line. It was shaky. Not Eleanor's strong handwriting. Adrian's hands curled into fists. Who submitted this? He asked. Nurse Patel frowned. It says it was uploaded through the patient portal. Authorized by Elise Carter. Adrian's head snapped up. Elise Carter. That was Elise's full name. He felt heat rise in his chest. Then his phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. Check the vent behind her bed. Before midnight. Adrian stared at the message. He didn't need to guess who it was. Amina. His heart hammered. By minute 10, the third clue demanded something irreversible. Then behind the bed. Before midnight. Adrian didn't think. He moved. He walked fast back to Eleanor's room. Elise was there, sitting near the bed, scrolling on her phone like she was waiting for a timer to hit 0. Adrian forced his voice calm. Elise, I need a minute alone with my mother. Elise looked up, smile sweet. Of course. I'll step out. But she didn't stand immediately. She lingered, eyes watching him like she was reading his next move. Then she stood slowly. Don't exhaust her, Elise said and walked out. The moment the door closed, Adrian turned to the wall behind the bed. There was a small air vent panel. He reached for it, fingers trembling. He unscrewed it quickly. Inside, tucked into the dark space, was a slim folder sealed in plastic. Adrian's breath caught. He pulled it out and opened it. Documents, old papers, legal letters, and on top, a handwritten note in his mother's strong handwriting. If you are reading this, they tried to silence me. Adrian's entire body went cold. He flipped through the papers with shaking hands. There were copies of a birth record request, an adoption agency letter, and a sealed envelope labeled, DNA results do not open until you are ready. Adrian swallowed hard. Adopted. DNA? His mind refused to accept it, yet his hands kept turning pages like truth had its own gravity. The note continued, written in bold strokes. Adrian, my son, I love you, but the truth is complicated. Someone was taken. Someone was replaced. And Elise knows. She is here to make sure I never finish telling you. Adrian's vision blurred. Replaced. Taken. He heard a small sound, his mother's weak breath shifting. He looked down at Eleanor. Her eyes were open. She was crying silently. Adrian leaned close. Mom, what is this? Eleanor's lips moved, barely forming words. Amina. Adrian froze. Amina, he whispered. Who is Amina? Eleanor's eyes squeezed shut like pain. Then she whispered, weak but clear. My first. Her voice broke. Adrian's heart felt like it was tearing. My first, he repeated. His mother's eyes opened again. She tried to lift her hand, but it trembled. Adrian held it. Eleanor mouthed one word. Daughter. Adrian stepped back like the floor tilted. Amina. A daughter. His mother's daughter. His what? Adrian's breathing went shallow. Then the door opened. Elise walked in, and her eyes went straight to the open vent. Her smile vanished. For the first time, Adrian saw what lived under her perfect polish. Panic. Then Elise recovered and forced a laugh. What are you doing? She asked lightly. Adrian held up the folder. My mother hid these. Elise's eyes narrowed. She's confused. Adrian's voice sharpened. She wrote this note. She wasn't confused when she wrote it. Elise stepped closer. Adrian, give that to me. Let the lawyers handle it. This isn't the time. Adrian didn't move. Elise's eyes flicked to Eleanor. And in that glance, Adrian saw something chilling. Not concern. Calculation. Elise's hand tightened around the strap of her bag. Adrian, she said softly. You're tired. You're emotional. You're seeing patterns that aren't there. Adrian's voice dropped. Amina. Who is she? Elise's face hardened. I don't know, she said too quickly. Some staff member. Why? Adrian took a step closer. My mother said she's her daughter. Elise laughed once, sharp, humorless. That's ridiculous. Eleanor let out a weak sound, like a protest. Elise turned her head slowly toward Eleanor. And then Elise's sweet voice vanished completely. You should rest, Elise murmured, low enough that it felt like a threat. Adrian's stomach twisted. He walked out of the room, folder in hand, and found Amina in the hallway near a supply closet. Amina saw his face and immediately understood. You found it, she whispered. Adrian stared at her. My mother said you're her daughter. Amina's eyes glistened. I didn't want you to find out like this. Adrian's mouth went dry. Are you saying you're... Amina nodded once. I was taken when I was a baby, she whispered. Not kidnapped like the movies. Paperwork. Money. A quiet deal. I grew up in another home. I didn't know the truth until last year. Adrian's head spun. How? Amina reached under her uniform and pulled out the pendant. It was small and worn. Engraved on it were 2 letters. Yh. Eleanor Hale. Adrian's throat tightened. Amina's voice trembled. I found documents in my adoptive mother's things. Letters. A name. A place. I came here. I did not come to take anything. I came because I needed answers. Adrian's anger surged. And Elise. Amina swallowed. Elise found out before you did. I don't know how, but she knows the truth changes everything. Adrian's jaw clenched. Changes what? Amina's eyes locked on his. Your mother's will. The trust. The family name. She was going to correct something she regretted for years. Adrian's mind flashed to Elise pushing legal decisions, updating directives. Elise wasn't just protecting him. She was protecting herself. Adrian's voice shook. So Elise is trying to. Amina's eyes flicked toward the room. I think she's trying to make sure your mother never speaks again. Adrian's blood ran cold. He moved fast. He pushed into the room. And that's when everything collided with the moment you heard at the beginning. Elise was leaning over Eleanor's bed, blocking her breathing with brutal focus. Eyes empty of love. Hands steady like she'd practiced. Adrian shouted, Elise. Elise froze, then turned slowly, breathing hard like she'd been running. For a second, her face looked like a mask slipping. Then she forced a calm expression. She was choking. Elise said, I was helping. Adrian's eyes burned. Helping her by cutting off her air? Elise's voice sharpened. Adrian, don't be dramatic. Amina rushed in behind him, her voice shaking. Stop lying. Elise's eyes snapped toward Amina, and something dark flashed there. Pure hatred. You, Elise hissed. You're not supposed to be here. Adrian stepped between them. Get out. Elise stared at him like he'd slapped her. Then she laughed softly, but it wasn't sweet anymore. You think you know what's happening, she said. You don't. Adrian's hands trembled as he reached for the call button. Nurse Patel and 2 staff members rushed in moments later. What's going on? Patel demanded. Adrian pointed. She was harming my mother. Elise stepped back, hands raised slightly. This is insane. I was trying to help her breathe. Ask the doctor. They know I'm the only one who can calm her. Adrian stared at Elise. The only one who can calm her? Or the only one who can control her? Elise's eyes narrowed. Watch your words. Adrian's voice hardened. No, you watch yours. Because you're leaving now. Elise turned to the staff, smiling again. Please, he's emotional. His mother is sick. He's imagining things. Nurse Patel looked at Eleanor. Eleanor's eyes were open, and she was crying. Patel's face changed. Miss Carter, Patel said firmly. Step into the hallway. Now. Elise's jaw tightened, but she obeyed, because she always knew how to look innocent in public. As Elise stepped out, she leaned close to Adrian and whispered through her smile. This won't end the way you think. Then she walked away. Adrian stood over his mother, chest heaving, hands shaking. Amina stayed near the corner of the room, like she didn't want to take space she hadn't earned. Eleanor's breathing steadied. Adrian held her hand again. I'm sorry, he whispered. I didn't see it sooner. Eleanor squeezed once, tears sliding. Adrian turned to Amina. We need proof. Amina nodded. Yes. And this is where everything shifted, because now it wasn't just about saving his mother. It was about exposing the truth they buried for years. That night, Adrian didn't sleep. He made calls. Quiet calls. The kind you make when you don't know who can be trusted. First, he hired private security. Not the ones Elise had recommended months ago, but his own team, led by a former investigator named Grant. Second, he demanded that the hospital place a guard outside Eleanor's room and log every visitor. Third, he told Nurse Patel something that surprised even him. If anyone tries to move my mother, change her medication, or restrict my access, I want you to call me immediately. Patel nodded, eyes serious. I will. Then Adrian looked at Amina. You said you found letters. He said, do you have copies? Amina reached into her bag and pulled out a small envelope. I kept everything. Adrian opened it carefully. There were old scanned documents, adoption agency references, a receipt for a private arrangement, and a name that made Adrian's stomach turn. Victor Sloan. Adrian knew that name. Victor Sloan was his family's longtime lawyer, the man who attended their holidays, the man who hugged his mother like family. Adrian's hands shook as anger rose. Amina's voice trembled. He was involved. I think he arranged it. Adrian's mind raced. Elise wasn't alone. She had a network, a lawyer, a doctor, possibly more. And now, if Adrian moved wrong, they'd destroy Amina, silence Eleanor, and paint Adrian as unstable. So Adrian made a protocol, a safe word, a code that only he, Amina, and Nurse Patel would use if something went wrong. If anyone called Adrian and didn't say the code word, he would assume it was a trap. The code word was something his mother used to say when he was a child, when she wanted him to focus. Blue sunrise. Amina repeated it softly, like tasting something old. Blue sunrise. Adrian stared at her. You've heard that before. Amina's eyes filled. Yes, in a lullaby. Long ago. I didn't know what it meant then. Adrian felt the twist of fate tighten. The next morning, Elise returned like nothing had happened. She wore a new outfit, a new smile, a new version of innocence. She approached Adrian in the hallway, voice warm. I was so worried. The staff misunderstood yesterday. Adrian didn't blink. Stay away from our mother. Elise's smile froze. Adrian, don't do this. Adrian stepped closer, voice low. I saw you. Elise's eyes hardened. You saw what you wanted to see. Then Elise leaned in, voice like silk over a blade. Be careful, she whispered. If you start accusing me, people will start asking questions. And you don't want certain questions asked. Adrian's stomach tightened. Like what? Elise smiled. Like who you really are. Then she walked away, leaving Adrian standing there with fury pounding behind his ribs. That was her counterattack. Not a scream. Not a slap. A reminder. She believed she still had power over him, and she proved it within hours. By midday, security arrived. Not Adrian's, but hospital security. They approached Amina near the service corridor. Ma'am, a guard said. We need to speak with you. Amina stiffened. Why? The guard held up a report. There's been a complaint. Theft. Missing personal items from a patient's room. Amina's face went pale. Adrian stepped forward. What is this? The guard looked uncomfortable. We have to follow procedure. She'll need to come with us. Adrian's eyes narrowed. Who filed the complaint? The guard hesitated. Ms. Carter. Adrian's jaw clenched. Elise was trying to remove Amina, to isolate Adrian, to silence the living proof. Adrian stepped closer. She's not going anywhere. I want this handled properly. Now. The guard tried to push. Adrian didn't move. Then Nurse Patel appeared like a shield. There's also security footage, Patel said firmly. Before we accuse staff, we review footage. The guard hesitated again. The cameras in that corridor were under maintenance yesterday. Adrian's blood ran cold. Under maintenance. Convenient. Adrian realized Elise was already ahead, so he changed tactics. He took Amina into the family lounge and locked the door. He called Grant, his investigator. Find out everything about Elise Carter, Adrian said. Everything. Her past, her associates, her finances, her family. And I want Victor Sloan's trail too. Grant's voice was calm. Understood. Then Adrian turned to Amina. We need something that cannot be argued. Not emotions. Not words. Proof. Amina nodded. The DNA envelope. Adrian held it up. But he didn't open it. Not yet. Because if he opened it, and Elise found out, she'd know exactly what he knew. Instead, Adrian decided to get fresh proof. Official. Documented. Irrefutable. He went to the hospital's administrative office and requested a supervised DNA test between Eleanor and Amina. He used his name, his legal authority, and his calm billionaire voice that made people move faster. The administrator tried to resist. Then Adrian mentioned the word investigation, and suddenly the administrator found a way. A nurse took swabs from Eleanor's cheek gently. Amina did the same. The samples were sent to an external lab with rush processing. Now they waited. But Elise didn't wait. That evening, Dr. Rowland requested a private meeting with Adrian. Adrian entered the doctor's office and saw Elise seated inside, legs crossed, calm as a queen. Adrian's eyes narrowed. Why is she here? Dr. Rowland cleared his throat. Ms. Carter has been involved in your mother's care decisions. Adrian's voice was sharp. She's not authorized anymore. Elise smiled. Adrian, don't embarrass yourself. Dr. Rowland slid a folder across the desk. These are the latest recommendations, he said. We may need to transfer Eleanor to intensive care. More restrictive visitation. Adrian's stomach twisted. Restrictive, he said. Why? Dr. Rowland's voice was steady. Her stress levels spike when certain individuals are present. Adrian stared at him. You mean when I'm present? Elise leaned back. You're agitating her. Adrian's voice dropped. Or you're trying to isolate her. Dr. Rowland's face hardened. Mr. Hale, watch your accusations. Adrian leaned forward, eyes burning. Watch your actions. Elise's smile disappeared. You're spiraling, she said coldly. And if you keep this up, people will think you're unstable. Adrian's chest tightened. That was the trap. Paint him as unstable. Remove him legally. Keep Eleanor quiet. Get Elise into the position she wanted. Adrian stood slowly. Transfer her without my consent, and you'll be answering questions you can't buy your way out of. Elise's eyes narrowed. You think you can win against paperwork and reputation? Adrian held her gaze. I don't think. I know. He walked out. Minutes later, Amina texted him. Blue sunrise. She's coming. Adrian's heart jumped. The safe word. Real warning. He sprinted down the corridor toward Eleanor's room, and what he found made his blood freeze again. Elise stood at the doorway, arguing with Nurse Patel, while two staff members rolled a gurney closer. They need to move her now. Elise snapped. Stop delaying. Patel's voice was firm. Not without Mr. Hale's consent. Elise's eyes flashed. He's not thinking clearly. Adrian stepped in. I'm thinking perfectly. Everyone froze. Elise turned slowly, face tightening. Adrian pointed at the gurney. Nobody moves her. Elise's voice turned sweet instantly. Adrian, the doctor said. Adrian cut her off. Get away from her. Elise's smile cracked. Then she did something bold. She stepped closer and whispered, low enough only Adrian could hear. You can't protect her forever. Adrian's voice was ice. Watch me. That night, Grant called Adrian with the first update. Elise Carter isn't Elise Carter, Grant said. Adrian's heart slammed. What do you mean? He whispered. Grant's voice stayed calm. Her real name is Elise Hart. She changed it. There are gaps in her history. She's linked to Victor Sloan through a shell company. And there's evidence she's been paid large sums over the last year from an account connected to Dr. Rowland. Adrian's hand shook. Elise wasn't just a fiancée. She was an assignment. Grant continued. One more thing. A woman named Amina Yusuf was listed in a sealed adoption case connected to Eleanor Hale 30 years ago. Adrian's throat tightened. It's real, Adrian whispered. Grant's voice lowered. Mr. Hale, this looks like a long game. Adrian stared at the hospital ceiling, heart pounding. A long game. Planned. Built. Executed with smiles and signatures. Now Adrian had one mission. Expose them before they finished what they started. The lab results came the next afternoon. Adrian stood in a small private office with Nurse Patel and Amina beside him. The lab technician handed over the sealed report. Adrian's fingers trembled as he opened it. He read the first line. Probability of maternity, 99.99%. Adrian's vision blurred. Amina covered her mouth, tears spilling silently. Nurse Patel inhaled sharply. Adrian's chest felt like it had been hit by a wave. Amina wasn't just a stranger trying to help. She was Eleanor's daughter. And that meant... Adrian looked down at the report again. If Eleanor had a daughter, and that daughter was hidden, then who was Adrian really? He pulled out the old envelope from the vent, the one labeled DNA results. His hand shook harder as he opened it. Inside was a prior DNA test, older, dated months ago. Adrian scanned it quickly. Then his breath stopped completely. Not biological. The report stated Adrian was not Eleanor's biological child. His knees went weak. The world didn't spin like a movie. It just went quiet. Adrian gripped the desk to steady himself. All those years, all those memories, all that love, real love, but not blood. Amina's voice cracked. I didn't come to take your place. Adrian looked at her, eyes burning. I don't even know what my place is right now, he whispered. Nurse Patel spoke gently. Family isn't only blood. Adrian swallowed hard, trying to breathe. Then he made a decision. Irreversible. He would not let Elise win by turning this into chaos. He would not let Victor Sloan rewrite reality with legal ink. He would not let Dr. Rowland hide behind hospital policies. He would do this clean. With proof. With witnesses. With consequences. Adrian looked at Grant. I want the hospital's internal logs. Visitor logs. File changes. Who accessed what when. I want the portal records that show Elise uploaded that directive. Grant nodded. We can get it. But we need a warrant or a cooperative admin. Adrian's eyes narrowed. Then we make them cooperate. He reached out to his company's legal counsel. Someone Elise didn't know. Within hours, the hospital received formal requests, warnings, and a quiet promise of a public investigation if anything was destroyed. That's when Elise made her final move. That night, Adrian returned to Eleanor's room and found it empty. The bed was made. The machines were gone. The air felt wrong. Adrian's heart exploded into panic. He spun to Nurse Patel at the desk. Where is she? Patel's face was pale. They moved her. Dr. Rowland signed the transfer order. Adrian's vision darkened. Where? He demanded. Patel swallowed. ICU. Restricted wing. Adrian turned and ran. As he moved, his phone buzzed. A message from Elise. You pushed too far. Now you'll learn what losing feels like. Adrian's hand shook with rage. He reached the ICU entrance and was blocked by security. Only authorized visitors. The guard said. Adrian's voice was deadly. I'm authorized. The guard glanced at a tablet. It says your access is temporarily suspended pending review. Adrian's blood went cold. Suspended. Elise had done it. She'd isolated Eleanor. Adrian turned to Amina. Blue sunrise, he whispered. Amina nodded and pulled out her phone. She called Nurse Patel's direct number. Patel answered immediately, and Amina said, Blue sunrise. They moved her. We need the administrator now. Within minutes, the hospital administrator arrived, flustered, trying to calm the situation. Adrian didn't shout. He didn't need to. He held up documents, DNA proof, file change logs Grant had already obtained through a cooperative staffer, and a recorded statement from Nurse Patel about Elise's behavior. Then Adrian said quietly, If my mother's condition worsens because you allowed unauthorized decisions, your hospital will not survive the truth. The administrator's face drained. Doors opened. Adrian entered the ICU. And there, behind glass, Eleanor lay again, thinner, weaker, but still breathing. Elise stood inside the room with Dr. Rowland, speaking low. When Elise saw Adrian enter, her face tightened. She stepped forward quickly. You're not allowed here. Adrian's voice was calm. That's over. Dr. Rowland raised his chin. Mr. Hale, this is... Adrian cut him off. You're finished. Elise laughed sharply. You think you can just walk in and change reality? Adrian held up his phone. Grant had installed discreet, recording devices in the family lounge earlier, anticipating Elise would speak freely. And she had. The recording played through the room. Elise's voice, clear and cold. She needs to stop breathing before he finds the papers. Elise's face went white. Dr. Rowland stepped back, as if the air had turned toxic. Adrian stepped closer, eyes locked on Elise. "It's done," he said. Elise tried to recover, lifting her chin. "That's edited." Adrian nodded once. "Then you won't mind when the police verify it." Nurse Patel entered behind them with 2 officers. Elise's smile shattered. "You can't do this," Elise snapped, voice rising. "You have no idea what you're destroying." Adrian's voice was steady. "You destroyed it when you tried to silence my mother." Elise turned toward Eleanor with sudden desperation, like she wanted to finish what she started. Adrian moved instantly, blocking her path. The officer stepped in, restraining Elise. Elise screamed, fighting, perfect hair falling out of place. Dr. Rowland tried to speak, but Grant appeared at the door with another folder. "Doctor," Grant said calmly, "we have your financial trail, payments from shell accounts, records of unauthorized portal access. You might want a lawyer." Dr. Rowland's face collapsed. Victor Sloan arrived minutes later, walking fast like he was going to control the chaos. When he saw the police, his face tightened. Adrian stepped toward him and held up the adoption records and DNA results. Victor's eyes flickered. He tried to smile. "Adrian, let's discuss this privately." Adrian's voice was ice. "There's no private anymore." The hospital administrator turned pale as Grant handed over copies of the file change logs. Victor looked around, realizing the room had witnesses, nurses, staff, officers. No more quiet deals. Victor's voice dropped. "This is a misunderstanding." Adrian stared at him. "You stole a baby." Victor's smile died. Adrian's voice trembled, not with fear, but with pain. "You took my mother's daughter. You built my life on a lie, and you tried to kill her to keep it buried." Victor swallowed, eyes darting. "That's not," he started. Then Eleanor made a sound, weak, but present. Adrian turned. His mother's eyes were open, and for the first time in days, she spoke clearly, soft, but firm enough to stop the room. "Victor did it." Victor's face broke. That single sentence snapped the last thread holding his defense together. Elise stopped fighting, eyes wide, as if she'd just realized the person she tried to erase was still speaking. The officers arrested Elise. They detained Dr. Rowland and Victor Sloan. Victor tried to walk out with dignity, but the cuffs didn't care about his reputation. As they led him away, Victor looked at Adrian with something like bitterness. "You were never supposed to find out," Victor muttered. Adrian's voice cracked. "And my mother was never supposed to suffer. But you made sure she did." Victor said nothing. He was taken away. Justice doesn't always feel like fireworks. Sometimes it feels like a quiet room, finally exhaling after being held hostage by lies. Days passed. Eleanor stabilized. She didn't miraculously become healthy. She was still weak, still recovering, still facing the consequences of what stress and fear had done to her body. But she was alive. Adrian visited every day. Amina visited too, standing at a respectful distance at first, like she didn't know if she deserved closeness. One evening, when the room was calm and the sunset light stretched across the floor, Eleanor reached out her trembling hand. Amina stepped closer carefully. Eleanor touched her fingers to Amina's hand. Amina broke. Tears felt like years finally escaping. Eleanor whispered, voice thin, "I'm sorry." Amina shook her head, crying, "I'm here." Adrian watched them, heart aching in ways money could never fix. Later, when Eleanor fell asleep, Adrian stepped into the hallway with Amina. He leaned against the wall, looking suddenly tired in a way that had nothing to do with business. "I don't know who I am right now," Adrian admitted quietly. Amina wiped her tears. "You're the man who stayed." Adrian looked at her. "You don't hate me?" Amina's eyes widened. "Why would I hate you? You didn't choose this." Adrian's voice cracked. "I lived a life that belonged to someone else." Amina shook her head gently. "You lived a life your mother gave you with love. That wasn't stolen by you. It was stolen from both of us by them." Adrian swallowed hard. He looked away, blinking fast. Then he said quietly, "I'm sorry I didn't see you sooner." Amina's voice trembled. "I didn't come for money. I didn't even know if she would believe me. I just wanted my mother to know I was real. Adrian nodded slowly. You are real. He took a breath. Then he did something that surprised even him. He held out his hand. Not as an owner. Not as a savior. As family. Amina hesitated, then took it. Their hands met. Two lives torn apart by lies, now standing in the same hallway trying to rebuild something from the ruins. Weeks later, Elise's case became public. Headlines screamed. People debated. Strangers formed opinions, with no understanding of the nights Adrian had spent listening to machines and praying for breath. Dr. Rowland lost his license. Victor Sloan's empire crumbled. But the biggest change wasn't in the news. It was in Adrian. He stopped trusting smiles too easily. He stopped letting silence count as safety. And he started asking questions, even when the answers hurt. One afternoon, Eleanor asked Adrian to sit close. He leaned in. Her voice was soft. You are my son. Adrian's eyes burned. Eleanor squeezed his hand weakly. Blood didn't make you mine. Love did. Adrian swallowed hard. I'm angry, he admitted. Eleanor nodded slightly. You deserve to be. Adrian looked toward Amina, sitting by the window, quietly reading. And her? Adrian asked. Eleanor's eyes softened. She deserves time, and truth, and peace. Adrian nodded. He understood something now. Family isn't a clean story. It's messy. It's painful. It's a choice you keep making. And sometimes, it's a wound that becomes a bridge if you stop pretending it never happened. Months later, Eleanor left the hospital with assistance, walking slowly, but walking. Adrian moved her into a safer home, with full medical care and trusted staff. Elise's name became something people whispered with disgust. But Adrian didn't feel victory every day. Some days, he felt emptiness, because betrayal leaves a quiet echo, even after justice. One night, Adrian stood on the porch of Eleanor's new home, looking out into the dark. Amina joined him. She didn't speak right away. Then she asked softly, Do you ever miss who you thought Elise was? Adrian let out a slow breath. I missed a version of my life where I didn't know this much darkness could hide behind beauty, he said. Amina nodded. Yeah. Adrian looked at her. But I'm glad I found out. Amina's voice was quiet. Me too, even if it hurt. Adrian stared out into the night and said something that sounded like a promise. No more quiet lies. Amina glanced at him. Blue sunrise. Adrian looked at her, and, for the first time in a long time, a small real smile appeared. Blue sunrise, he repeated. And if you've ever been betrayed by someone you trusted, if you've ever found out your life wasn't what you thought, let me ask you something. Would you want the truth, even if it broke everything? Or would you rather live in a beautiful lie? If this story pulled something real out of you, drop your thoughts in the comments. And if you want more narrated stories like this, don't forget to subscribe.